to move.
No.
Right, so I guess I call to order this meeting of the Albany Arts Committee. And I believe we are all here with the exception of Jenny,
And Peter.
Peter?
Yeah.
And Peter's not coming.
Okay, correct.
Yeah.
He's
Do we
in
need-
South America.
Do we need to do a formal roll call or
No, I mean, some committees and commissions do, but
We can
we can
skip
just
it,
use
okay.
our eyes.
Okay.
I feel like.
We'll work
Yes.
to be more formal next time.
Okay.
Okay. Item 2, approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve December's minutes?
I move to approve December's minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are approved. Moving on to item 3, public comment. Huge crowd tonight. I don't think we have
By one.
any. No. Moving on to item 4, announcements, Poet Laureate, 4-1.
Yeah, we can go first before 4-0 is going to be just to
Oh.
introduce Liam Kelly.
Oh, well, let's go for it.
Is that all right?
Yes, of
Okay.
course. Sorry, I didn't see. Okay.
I sent all an email, and Cheryl reminded me that I didn't actually include why the change. So I'm not leaving Albany. I'm not sick. I'm just going to start as the Parks and Recreation and Open Space liaison with Isabel LeDuc. So we're going to take that on together. And Liam graciously said, "Yeah, I'll take the Arts Committee back."
He missed
So.
us.
He did.
Come back.
He did. So we've been chatting a lot about just what we've been up to the last few years. So he's up to date. We share an office wall, so I won't be far away, and we'll continue to be a liaison to the liaison. But with that, so I think you guys all know him because he's subbed for me once or twice too, but feel free to reach out, and you'll start getting correspondences from Mr. Kelly. Yeah. Did you want to
Great.
say something else, or?
No?
Okay.
Thank you.
The Poet Laureate, I just wanted to give you a quick update. Rebecca Black is the current Poet Laureate, and her contract ends in September. And I ran into her the other day at childcare pickup. I was picking up our after-school kids, and she was picking up her kids, and I was talking about the process, and we thought that, and I'd love Peter to weigh in as well, too, because he's been kind of the main subcommittee, if you will, kind of what the next steps were in her mind and if she knew anyone. And so we'll start looking at that earlier rather than later. She also said, it's common to have a lull too. So if you didn't find someone that you liked to start in October, that would be fine.
Now, she's already done it twice now.
Twice, so 4 years will be September. Yeah, so we renewed a year and a half ago, we renewed her contract through September 2020. So that's seemed a long time ago, or seemed a long time when we, signed it, but now it's coming up. That being said, she is going to come to the April meeting, so we'll put that on the agenda. We'd love for her, and we do this annually-ish, for her to come and just give an update of what she's been up to, what her projects are, and then what she doesn't know is that she will know if she listens to this meeting, but the Albany Community Foundation donated an honorarium of $750, which they've done in years past, and so that would have,
allocation?
yep, so that would be for 2019, so we'll award that to her in April. So that's that.
If I don't know if or how it could be tied in, but I think Berkeley has like a 2-year grant to do poetry in the census. It's like a series of programming and speakers and everything, and maybe if there needs to be an announcement or recruitment or something like that, or some type of, mention, maybe that could be a way to get the word out for an eventual
could
next
help.
Poet Laureate or
Yeah.
something of that nature.
Yeah, that'd be great. So maybe everyone start thinking about ways to how we can market that opportunity.
We could also put it in the newsletter.
Newsletter is one.
Newsletter.
Yep, there's a few different ways we've marketed at least the gallery, and we can put it on Nextdoor, or we can put it on,
Yeah.
So start thinking if you know any poets to put a bug in their ear. Likewise, the update for the Fall into Haiku is that we also received the stipend from the Albany Community Foundation that's been received, and council has approved it. They need to approve donations, so we're all good for that. We got reimbursed for all those expenses. And
Oh,
Peter was
terrific.
very helpful with that, so thank you, Peter. The next one I wanted to show you, hi, Jenny.
Hi, guys, sorry I'm late.
The next one I wanted to show you is that I had emailed, it's the EBCE, East Bay Community Energy, that they're doing a competition, artwork design for buttons or posters. So I emailed this, and I can email it again if anyone would like, but I just wanted to encourage you guys, if you wanted to enter yourself, Zebo, it'd be great to take a look at this and see if there's anywhere at the high school. But our community development staff asked if we could definitely send this to the Arts Committee, and we'd love for you guys as a art body to forward the information along. At the end, I think there's a $500 prize, and but there's a little really short application that you have to do along with your submission. So I have one copy if anyone wants this today, but otherwise, does anyone need another copy to send? Otherwise, it should be in your email. Okay. Update on the sculpture loan program. I just wanted to let everyone know that we have had talks with Public Works, and the hope is that there needs to be some dog park renovations, and that the contractor who's doing those renovations can also do our sculpture loan pads. We don't have an ETA yet, but I feel like that's progress. That
Yeah,
at
you're
least
talking
there's a
to-
plan to make a plan.
Thank
Right.
you, Eva.
And last but not least, I added this too, that I know that the question about Instagram had come up, and I just wanted to let you know too that we do have a city Instagram page. Jeremy Allen is the one who administers that, and he said anytime you have contact, please just send it to us, and we'll add it to
We
the.
send it to you?
Yeah, send it to Liam. Yeah, and he can send it all along. We also have a recreation Instagram page. We also have a Facebook page. So anytime you have information that you want to share and we deem that it's appropriate, we can post that to social media. So, yeah. Any questions on that one? I know it had come up before. Okay. And that's all the staff comments. We introduced Liam, so
Yeah.
you're officially reintroduced. Yes, I know you know him already, but yeah, so we can open it up to the committee if there's any announcements.
Great, there's not a lot of community here.
No.
We're on item number 4,
Great.
committee updates.
Can we, was Peter our person for the poet laureate?
Yeah. Yes.
Can we move that to next month?
I did an update. I went through 4. I went through 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
You did that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But let me
Thank so
update you
much.
real quick, is that we received the honorarium for 2019. That was
50?
750?
Yeah.
Yes. From the Community Foundation, she's going to come to the April meeting, and she doesn't know it, but we'll award her with that, and she'll also have a presentation on what she's been up to.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great, that's great. Okay, so now we're at 5, presentations. We don't have any.
Are there any committee announcements, too, from the committee at all? Just want to make sure that everyone, no? Okay.
So are we at 6?
Yes.
Do you want to discuss the Economic Development
Sure.
Committee? Thanks, Brandon.
Sure. So I visited them Thursday, and I think they were pretty receptive. I gave them a summary of things that we had been up to from the work plan, and we touched base on a couple ideas, some specific concrete proposals to work on immediately, others more longer-term, broader type issues. I'd say kind of as quick things to start working on immediately that they seemed receptive to, the idea of kind of murals and having a pamphlet, which there was maybe could also be like a map or a website. We could talk about that, but
A pamphlet for the sites or a pamphlet
yeah, so
for?
the general idea that Peter, I think, in the Arts Committee had created earlier is a pamphlet that outlines, why murals are great, what you might need to do, how the Arts Committee could help,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. They were on board with that, and I think tentatively the next immediate step, just to keep momentum going, was to send them the existing draft, get their feedback on that at the same time that our subcommittee could review that language and see if there's anything we wanted to change or update, et cetera. But I was thinking, in addition to a pamphlet or a postcard to go out to business owners, if we could somehow have like a Google map of some sort where maybe business, maybe we're the filter, or staff is the filter, I don't know how it would work, but business owners post maybe a location and what they're looking for. Artists post what they would propose or what they would like to do, or locations they would like to muralize, and somehow, we're kind of a broker and a filter, and then the parties get together and do what they
Well, that's a concept.
would like. That way it's a little visual, it could be shared on social media. If there's a filter in place, maybe you weed out the crazies or kind of people who aren't really serious, et cetera.
Serious
But
about it, yeah.
it could be interesting also for the public to comment or see what's going on or just get ideas. But big picture, the murals, the Economic Development Committee seemed on board with that general idea. And I think if we get them some language to just chew on and we consider some language, we can go ahead.
Where is do we have a copy of
We have a brochure.
a brochure? Yeah.
Yeah, and I can send it out to the committee. The other thing I was going to suggest with the brochure is that we do have a college student part-time graphic design person. So once the language is there, we can probably have her spruce
up.
it up a little
Spruce
bit.
it.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
Okay.
So who wants to work on that mural brochure? Who wants to be part of that?
So my initial reaction, I would like to participate, is if it's open to everyone. If, I think you and Peter, the other members of, the existing members of the subcommittee, we could keep that or expand, however, if anyone wants to join us, whatever anyone would like to do.
And I'm happy to send it out to people for comment, collect the comments, and then pass it on to you guys if that works too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great, so you
And-
guys are
and-
still it?
So that's one. We can discuss that more in the coming months. And then the other idea, we are discussing some of the empty storefronts along Solano, and I think we've discussed here using storefronts either as a performance space or an art space of some sort. The one thing they felt more, at least I interpreted them to be more amenable to, was using that for visual art, on surface, on windows, et cetera, not necessarily performances, which might involve more risk, more cost, be more
All
complicated.
that kind of stuff.
So I thought there too, along the lines of a map, that might be something similar, not just for murals, but, I, business owner or, property owner, have an empty storefront here. I'd love to have art on the windows.
Yes.
If we could work our contacts and be the broker or filter, at the high school or at local colleges, an artist, whatever, we
Sure.
can all talk about it.
Sure.
But the general idea is, that seemed fairly easy, fairly straightforward to get more art out there and be beneficial to property and business owners and people walking down the street and all that stuff.
And it wouldn't look like so many empty storefronts.
Right, might make it, look cooler, better, et cetera. So those were kind of the quick, they seemed fairly straightforward things that we could, slowly, hopefully quickly chip away at. Some of the bigger items, I mentioned that we were working on the sculpture loan, that in theory, I was going to work at some point on a BART project, which I haven't done, that's my bad. But one of the committee members kindly said, we know the Albany Loop, that's great. Our feedback would be, if you do further things on the BART columns on the Ohlone Greenway, is to make it more visible to BART trains. So I don't know how feasible that is, but the idea being, that's kind of gateway territory in a sense. It's a way to publicize Albany. And I think what they were saying is that we can't see the Albany Loop as much as we would like from the BART trains.
Well, then, I think that's a question that I've had about the circle at Dartmouth, which is how tall can the piece be there? Because I wanted to find a piece that could talk to the BART trains as they go by. But I didn't know if BART was that's on BART property, and do they have a height restriction?
Is the circle on
Yes.
BART property?
It's
Okay.
like, it's definitely, the BART has to be involved in that particular one. Other ones, it's kind of hard. They're off, the ones that we're gonna have in place when they do go in place, they're off probably like by 10 or 12 feet from the BART tracks. So they're further away from the BART tracks than the Albany Loop.
Okay.
But they may not, unless you know they're there, you might not see them.
Right.
And I think that's something, we can't do anything about that at this point. It's going forward, if we do have any projects there,
Yeah, we
that
should-
was their feedback.
That was their feedback. Let us see them. Yeah, well, there, we have one spot where we could potentially have something as big, like something from your yard that's really tall that you could see from the BART, that as you go by, which I thought would be a really cool thing.
The other, I guess, general items that might be longer term, which I felt there was some tentative agreement, not necessarily formal, but maybe eventually changing the ordinance to be more inclusive of performance, non-object art and more cultural programming, stuff like that. Not formally, but there was some head nodding and some, they seem to be on board. I potentially mentioned if we can ever find funding, some type of very part-time staff support, not city staff, but hiring a graduate student or a high school student, college student, someone that can work on research for grant proposals or just social media promotion, whatever it might be. So that's something down the line. Maybe some of the Albany foundations could chip in for something like that. I think, I forget her name now, but one of the guest speakers said for gateway signage, she had in mind more signage down, like when people get off of 580 and 80. And I was saying we follow the master plan, which I think is putting the gateway signage at Marin and Buchanan. You know, and so that's something, again, it's just feedback, right? So it's something to keep in mind.
And with those, I should add that the gateway, I believe we've had, if you remember several years ago, but Aleda came to talk about the San Pablo complete streets, that
Yes.
is not happening tomorrow, but that would be a part of that project. There would be an art component, and same with Solano Complete Streets, is that once that gets underway, the Arts Committee would be approached to help with the gateway
In an
signage. And
advisory capacity, to like help advise.
yeah, or maybe got like kind of like Shelley came to the Arts Committee for the Albany Greenway improvements. So it'd be something very similar to that, where the staff would come and say, we would like a piece of art here,
Great.
or around here that welcome, here's the criteria, so.
Yeah. And I think potentially along those lines, when we started talking about gateways, I mentioned as well, a lot of people are going to the Bulb, and a lot of people are going to the Bulb for art. Those people aren't necessarily coming over to Solano or San Pablo.
Right.
I don't know, but I don't think they are. And so maybe in the longer term, that might be some way, and maybe it ties into this gateway signage down there type conversation. How can you link the Bulb, what's going on there, and maybe get those people to also go to Solano or San Pablo, stuff like that. But again, those were kind of the longer term, let's talk about it again. I'd say the immediate, maybe we could do something fairly quickly, items were the murals and the storefronts. Those were things that I think if we get them, they'll look at some draft language, we'll look at some draft language, we can already start to move forward with that, I would hope. The storefronts, we could also, tentatively start to think if there's some type of mechanism, a similar mechanism where we're the broker/filter, and then the business owners and the artist.
Would it make sense to kind of combine them?
Yes, I think the map, like, I just thought that, I'm not a tech genius, but Google Maps has this functionality, it could be easy.
We could, because the systems are kind of the same.
Right. It's, in a sense, you're,
It's-
taking information in and being a
Right.
broker and a filter
Yeah.
for stuff.
Because it's an arts committee, economic development committee partnership, does it have to go through the city? Or could it be one of our emails?
What specifically?
The brokerage,
So I don't think we've got that far. I think
okay.
the idea would be maybe to propose some type of platform, a simple platform of some
Okay.
sort, and then think about how much effort does it take, and
Right.
then see how it might work. But at a very minimum, do like a brochure or a postcard,
Sure.
Yeah,
because when people have something in their hands, they pay attention to it,
Yeah.
at least for 3 seconds.
and this, we could put it on, we could also put it in the arts part of the city.
City.
Online thing, presence, right?
Yes,
So, yeah, so
yes.
let's work on that this month, okay?
And I know that as soon as the Arts Committee and the Economic Development Committee started talking, they were like, oh, we know people who want murals, and we're like, oh, well, that's great to know. So I think just even the conversations and having representatives go to each meeting to just tell like what we've been at, or we had this great idea, or
Another quick idea I think that we mentioned quickly is they were talking about there's going to be tentatively a new development on San Pablo, maybe where Casper's is,
oh yes,
like a
that's right.
beer garden
That's
with
right.
external food vendor type thing.
Yeah.
We were thinking it'd be cool if we had a pamphlet, like when someone goes to apply for licenses or, goes to the city to build something or buy something, there's some type of thing there about, hey, art is cool, put it on your, site, and here's resources. So
Yeah, but-
just like an informational thing, or,
Again, it's one of those things, if someone is willing to take that on and come up with the verbiage of what, we have a graphic design person who could kind of put that together too,
okay.
so.
I'm happy to lead these little things
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
try to push it forward and then go from there.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll be
Great.
really happy to work with you on it.
okay.
Yeah, and thank you again, Member Schneider, for going to the meeting. He did a great job. It was very comprehensive, and they were all wowed.
Great,
Terrific.
great. All right. The review of the committee work plan. Did everybody take a look at that? Everybody got it in their minutes?
Everyone's nodding. Yes, absolutely. So just to review, this is the 2019 to 2021 two-year work plan, and it has an account of everything that the Arts Committee has done. It's this long, extensive list you'll see. And then down here, I can also make it bigger. Oh yeah, better. This is the initiatives and that the Arts Committee is planning to do in the next 2 years. And we like to, especially when we're halfway through, kind of take a look at what's been done, where we're at, and most importantly, possible next steps. I know that sometimes, or in the past, we've kind of come up to some roadblocks. So if we're waiting for staff or we're waiting for approval from BART or whatever it is, you guys came up with a great, these are all things that you guys came up with, a great list of projects that still are pending and that you could continue to work on. So what I did as just kind of a way to assess where we're at, let's make sure I can, nope. Maybe I can do this and talk at the same time, is create this spreadsheet that's right here and super small, and as a way to not only review that the reason we're doing this is council has a strategic plan, and this is where the Arts Committee falls into, is advancing economic development and the arts. It's pretty general, but investigate ways to support and develop the arts, and also update and continue to implement the public arts master plan. So within that, then the Arts Committee has come up with, I think there's 13 different initiatives, and work on a lot of these has been continuing, and some of them we haven't touched yet. But what I wanted to just do is kind of take them one by one, have a little discussion about where we are, where we'd like to be, and next steps. And you'll see that the second column here is initially when we came up with the work plan that I asked for committee members to sign up for each one as being responsible for each initiative, so that it kept going, the ball kept rolling, that is. So, and at the bottom I left a few blank so that we could kind of brainstorm and see where the committee would like to go, what's been done, and the goal is to, if not complete these, to really take a big first stab and get a good portion of the way done by 2021, when we have to go back to council for the next work plan and say, here's all the amazing things that the committee has done. So, any questions so far? You guys might have the work plan in front of you. I just kind of abbreviated, if you will, the initiative, but the first one is kind of an easy one. The Creek Art, the committee decided to discontinue and not move forward with that project, so that was...
I have a question about that. We all agreed not to move forward with this project. However, that's still a great place for Creek Art. It may not be a great place to put it through the path because of what we just found out about traffic and safety. Mm-hmm. But how do we, without having to wait till 2021, can we propose another project there and go out and find an artist to do it? For example, I'm going to beat this dead horse into the ground. I love that little bridge between Gilman Street and Dartmouth Street. I love it. It's got these little quails on it. It's just a mess of many gray paints right now. But it seems like that was an amazing place to just, even if you just said Cordonesis along one of it, and then Berkeley and Albany, boom, you'd have something that was a gateway thing, and that wouldn't be super, super expensive. Or if you did mosaic or did tiles, what is the mechanism that we have saying, we had a thing, it's not working, we want another thing, we don't want to wait 2 years?
So Great questions. So remembering way back, and if you weren't,
Replacing
the refresher is that the way that this was proposed is we had Measure WW, is that right? Money that needed to be spent along the Albany Greenway as the improvement project. And what was identified is identifying or acknowledging the 3 creeks that went through them. So if you were able to tie it into that initiative, I could see it being a possibility. That being said, as you've seen from a lot of these projects, it's a huge undertaking and a huge process. But I love your excitement, and I think if we tied it into Cordonices Creek, it could be a possibility. That's owned, as we've talked about, but it's owned by the city of Albany and Berkeley, because the line does go right through there. And if you look at the plaque, it does say city of Berkeley and city of Albany, so there's other
Considerations.
Considerations, there was a point, there was a time when they came to us and said, take it, we don't want it.
So interesting enough, I met the city of Berkeley staff member who was like, wait, you guys have the quail? We have the quail. We're working on the quail.
So that's changed.
So it has changed. I think
changed.
so. There could be, and Jenny, I can share that information with you too, and you can reach out and see like
At least
what
do
is
that this month. Find out who's doing the quails.
who's doing the quails. Yeah.
And not to put a damper on any of this, but I believe there is some matching funds as well, which we would have to talk with Parks and Recreation and everything too, to see if that's still around.
Yeah, whether that went away.
It is. It's around, but there is a deadline, and it's very soon. I want to say it's like September of this year. So realistically,
So
could anything be done with that? I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
does
past
it
that
have-
point.
Does it have to be spent by September?
Yes.
We can't just earmark it and we're going to spend it 6 months?
This is already pushed back, I think, a year and a half. So I can ask the question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We were pushing it for the loop. And I mean, the loop's been there for, I think we did the opening about a year ago,
Yeah.
right
We
about
did.
now.
But no, we weren't pushing it for the loop. We were right there.
No, because we got an extension for it, for use of funds.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize
Okay,
that.
so
But
that's
again, I've been out of it for a few years, so.
So there's the Creek Art Project, which
Yes.
I will work a little bit on. Sculpture loan, we're waiting. Yes?
So sculpture loan, the update with that is just that city staff needs to prepare the structural engineering report. After we have that, we will go to BART and council for their approval. So again, once we have that, it should move along quickly. Community projects, so this is another one that staff is working on getting contracts, and we currently have several contracts from other cities of how, we're not reinventing the wheel, how are you putting murals on public property using city funds?
Right. Right.
And it has
is there
been-
a timeline? I mean, isn't that the major point right now, is that if that building gets sold, do we keep that mural on that building?
What happens to it? All the what ifs, and protecting the artist, protecting the building owner, figuring out, is it the city having a contract with the artist and the city having a contract with the building owner? Do the artist and building owner need a contract? So asking all those questions, and then getting our city attorney to write up our own version of it too, that works for Albany.
So I wanted to mention that in one of the documents that I got to everybody, there's a lot of material on just this kind of thing. Experience with other arts committees and other cities and how they dealt with it. There's some really good information in there.
Great.
Moving on to Fall into Haiku, again, this one has been completed. Peter did that in 2019 along with all your support, so no next steps for that. For the Economic Development Committee, have that, Member Schneider had attended the February 6th meeting and given an update on the mural pamphlets and whatnots. So that seems like that's rolling along great. I think that's wonderful. The foyer, The committee selected 4 artists, and Member Black has continued to liaise with the artists, and that kind of is ongoing. The Poet Laureate, as I mentioned before, that Rebecca's contract ends in September, and the next steps will be then for the committee to start the process of soliciting a new Poet Laureate, starting as soon as October 2020. Then these next few, let's see, there's 6 more. Yeah. The Public Arts Master Plan. Research, discuss, and update the Public Arts Master Plan. This one, at this point, I'll take notes and I can update this as well as far as what the current status is and what the committee sees as the next steps, and if the subcommittee wants to take a stab at it, or anyone else if they had ideas on it. What the intention was to put it on the work plan,
Was just to review it, right, and research it. Didn't we want to make, well, we can talk about that. I will work on this, and I also work on the Art in Public Places ordinance. Because I feel like those two things, as I read more at other municipalities, I've been reading a lot of documents from other municipalities, those two things, those are good sources of inspiration.
I can share, Jen, I've collected some other cities' arts ordinances.
Yeah.
I can share those with
Sure.
you, and you can.
I have Oakland
take a
and
look.
Berkeley and a couple of non-California ones.
And anything specific as far as next steps for the master plan?
No, I don't. Does anybody?
Is that something, I mean, could we put like review again in December or something? Because it seems like a major upheaving to redo it in any way, and I don't think we're ready to do that right now. And so we
Yeah.
could maybe, we'd have better clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one thing to pay someone to totally revamp it, but it's another thing, like we added the community projects to the master plan, so you can amend it, and that just needs to go to, the wording just needs to go to council. And so if there, as you look through it, if there's sections that, I mean, it's pretty comprehensive, but if there was something that, either a section or wording that wanted to be changed, that's a simple, let's go to council and amend it. So what would you like next steps to be for that? We're going to hold you to this.
Okay. I guess we should just take it upon ourselves to all take a look at the master plan and familiarize yourself with it, and with a red pencil or whatever you do, circle things that you think we should discuss. You've done. Go, Lisa.
Post-its all over the place.
Yeah, oh, good. Okay, Lisa's ready. Lisa, you want to take that on?
What am I doing exactly? I'm not clear.
Well, you have reviewed it. Great. Do you want to, do you feel like we could put it on the next meeting agenda where you make a little report? Make a report on
I can do that.
the items that you think
Some
need
suggestions?
attention?
Yeah.
Yeah, would you do that? That would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to publicly say it because it has been a couple of years, and I just want to remember. So the Public Arts Master Plan is the entire document, right? Like the meat of it. And the ordinance is what, say, we use with that percentage taken from new development.
Right.
The 1.75%. That's the money. So the ordinance is the money.
Right.
The master plan lives within it.
Right.
Because just to throw this out there, but the PABP was created. I know that's a whole thing. So if everyone ever wants to have a cup of coffee, and I can talk for you 2.5 hours about what it is and why it's used. Anyways, that one was made a couple of years ago when the master plan was redone and everything. So I'm just kind of put it in my brain where everything fits in there. So when you look through that, if the PAPP seems weird and it was like thrown in there at the kind of last second, I'm just mentioning that was like a necessary requirement that City Council asked the Arts Committee to do because of some things that popped up. So maybe that one's okay for the time being, and looking at the other ones independently from that.
Okay.
The work plan. And the PAPP is how the Arts Committee spends the money, basically. But and then the Art in Public Places Ordinance, research, discuss, and update. That's a typo. The Art in Public Places Ordinance.
Well, this is an interesting one. I just say that Liam and you and I had a nice talk about this on Monday. I thought that we had a boilerplate ordinance, and apparently Jeff Bond wrote it. So even if we have a new lawyer, Jeff Bond still thinks this is the best way to write the ordinance. So I keep looking for other languages. Cities that have inserted a phrase to expand the permanent visual or semi-permanent visual art part of the ordinance. And Liam keeps telling me, I'm just going to say to everybody, Liam keeps telling me the ordinance is really for something that's going to be lasting. It's really something for lasting because of the in lieu payments from the developers. The city doesn't particularly want the developer to throw a concert and then be done. They want something that's really like what did you say, bricks and sticks? Something, some environment that either is the art itself or creates the art, the space for the art to happen. Am I right in saying that creating the space for the art to happen is one of the things that the ordinance covers?
I agree. Yes, I think so. I will just mention Eva definitely knows more about that side of the ordinance, but I think that is the city's understanding, right? That it's the lasting. The object of it is that it's lasting. It's continuing on.
Like a capital expense, exactly.
That was my take originally, if that's what the resistance is. Because I just think about when I bought a home, I had to make sure to take all the sculpture off of any wall. Otherwise, it would be, anybody who bought the home
Would own
have the rights to the sculpture.
Wow. So I guess the other part of it is that we've been talking for a while, let's change the ordinance, let's change the ordinance, let's change the ordinance. That might not happen. In fact, it feels kind of unlikely that it will happen. Yes.
No.
And so I want to just say that in case somebody feels like, if they want to keep hitting their head against that wall, go be my guest. But I think that our energies might be better used accepting that that's what it is for now. Unless we come up with a great test case to bring to the city, we'll have to do all the research and legwork on it. A great test case with a city that has a phrase in their ordinance that allows for performance art to be part of the public funds. It can be, I mean, obviously it's going to be in our plan until 2021. You can keep looking for it, but I'm going to back off of that as a thing that I think we have to muscle our way through, because I just don't see that happening.
Just out of curiosity, I've been out of that loop for a while. What is Jeff's position these days?
He's the Community Development Director.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
And he was the one who helped write it with the city attorney at the time, whenever that.
I remember that, but I just wasn't sure where he was at the moment.
I agree. I don't think it's a good use of our time to try to change it if it's not going to be changed, but I think we could probably pass a resolution or a recommendation that the city council consider reconsider how it funds art or uses some of that money. So is it 1.75% or something like that? So maybe do 1.5% goes to a capital project and 0.25 goes to programming or something. But I think if, at the very minimum, it would be fairly easy for us to make a recommendation or encourage them to explore this in the future, put it on the radar, and then maybe offer more evidence when we have it.
That is something, that's actually a really good point, because that is something that I have seen amended in other ordinances, is the amount of money and what it goes for, but not for programmatic. But I have seen like Berkeley increased their amount of funding from 1.5 to 1.75%. That was their last amendment to the ordinance. Yeah, so we could work on that, but I don't want to have that be the thing that I'm doing right now. It's hard to research. It's really hard. Okay. Moving on to the citywide arts promotion, I think this speaks to what you were talking about, Brandon, about having,
Can I stop you for a second?
Yes.
As far as number 9 and
Yes.
the ordinance,
Yes.
for next steps, does anyone want to take a stab at what that would be?
I mean, I would be happy to draft a recommendation or just a thing that says, we think this would be good. Here's why. You know, if you, city council, agree, we can look into it further, but otherwise we're not going to bang our head against the wall. But anyway, the public should know this is what we think is a better way to do this stuff. I mean, I wouldn't
That's a
go
good
crazy researching it. I would just say, you know, as some other communities have done, blah, 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 or, you know, we think art is more than these objects and that they should be supported. I'm not going crazy with research or anything, just a simple
right.
statement. And if they like it, then we would know maybe they support it, and
Oh, that's really smart.
otherwise we don't work on it.
No, that's smart.
Makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you. Any other thoughts about that?
And you're volunteering to do that, so I'll put your
Yes,
name
it's
by
gonna
it.
be fairly simple. I'm not doing.
Yeah. Great. It's good to have concrete things. We'll put it in writing. Okay, yes. Moving on, Jenny.
Okay, so now the citywide arts promotion, that puts me in mind that we should put something in writing. And then we should develop a mural brochure, a thing about the thing, that people who come to get permits, people who come to this office could say, this is what's, you don't have to go to the website to find this out. Here's how we're promoting the arts in Albany.
Isn't there I think I saw a pamphlet or some sort of something on murals.
There is
Yeah, we have a
mural brochure.
pamphlet.
There is, and that's the one we're gonna look at.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
update,
and, yeah,
right.
and distribute to businesses and stuff. Liam did bring up another point in our meeting, which is that, if a business and a building owner wants to put a mural in their building, and they can pay for it, it's gonna happen just like that, but we could still fold it into our awareness thing. We don't have to, as long as we're not paying money for it, it doesn't have to go through any of the bells and whistles that we have to go through right now, but we could still promote it. We could still recognize it and promote it and put on it whatever mural walk we want to have. So we could say to a store owner, you know, we would love to do this gallery in your windows and we'd like to put it on our map. We'd like you to do this. If you're going to do this mural, we want to include it on our map. We want you to be part of the art, so they don't feel like they're just doing this thing.
I think that makes sense.
Huh?
Makes sense. It makes sense for the people who are doing it.
Yeah,
It gets
to
the
get some
information,
support, the
some
support that we can give that's not money,
Right.
even if it's just recognition and whatever.
Well, if we're having a map with these things on it, that is support.
good,
That
yeah.
shows people what we're,
And I believe
going on?
Abrams Cleghorn has a map for their city art walks. So maybe there's some collaboration of he just adds the mural to his map and
Yeah.
boom, it's done. And then we share that with our different avenues as well,
I will
too.
go talk to you.
So next steps on that one, can you?
Well, we want to work on that brochure. We want to, and we want to have something we should develop something we'll bring to the next meeting that says how to get in touch with the empty storefront owners. To say, can we have art shows in here? That people you don't have to go into the room, just looking through the windows, you see art. I mean, it's kind of a peep show. It's kind of a cool idea.
I just wanted to mention that I've spent some time actually trying to do that.
Yeah?
And the wall that I hit up every single time was that property owners and real estate companies, you know, that are handling the
Yeah.
property, their big thing is the insurance and the risk. That's always the big thing. And those places that we see that have used art,
Yeah.
they've got like a personal relationship, you know, somebody knows, or their daughter is an artist.
Yeah,
There's like a
yeah.
personal thing. But I tried to do that, I have tried to do that so many times, and I've always, pretty much, always run into the same problems. I mean, even just putting a piece of paper, like a print in the window, was like.
They think that's an
freaked out.
insurance risk?
Yes, I mean, yes, so
What the
maybe
heck?
somebody's better at, trying to calm them down and let them know that it's just a piece of paper, the tape, we'll
Yeah.
wash the tape residue off.
Right.
But it's amazing.
It's amazing how many roadblocks they will also throw.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Perhaps we could also look into options of finding like a curatory business person that, or an entity that does curation, because that's something that I'm doing on the side too, is curating for a restaurant, and we hold insurance to provide for that.
no,
So if you
that's
can
a
work with a third
concept.
party to then hold the insurance, of course, there might be a cost associated to that, so that's something to work
Yes.
through.
Is anyone familiar with any communities where it's worked easily or?
Oakland, it's the communities
Oakland?
that like really were, desperate, desperate to try to make property look better.
Better, sure.
Desperate. So Oakland.
Oakland has a
look at
great
the results.
arts-
Look
yeah,
at the
it's
results in Oakland.
amazing.
It's a really thriving place because
Yeah.
all that creative stuff that, got stuck in windows that from, crappy buildings
Yeah.
really caused a stir and attracted people like
Yes.
the arts usually do. Right?
Yes.
So, yeah, Oakland's one example.
It's a shining example. I
Yeah.
think Berkeley has some storefront galleries that they promote, but
That's
that's different.
galleries. But Portland, Oregon,
Has
Portland
this.
did it for a long time. I don't know that they're doing it now, because now they're, they're like, they're like Oakland now. They're, very gentrified and very well developed. But when I lived there years ago, that's exactly what was going on, for the same reason.
Okay.
Are there any art-specific insurance companies that would do something like this as a niche business?
No, that's.
I do know one,
You do?
yes.
Great.
I mean, maybe that could be some type
Can
of.
you ask
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
how to set it up, so how to approach real estate owners? Can you do that?
I can do that, sure.
Awesome, Andy.
Yeah.
That would be great, great. That would be lovely.
So as far as next steps for promoting, increasing visibility and awareness of the arts in Albany,
So we're talking about developing the brochure, developing the empty storefronts. Andy's going to look at both a curation, is it what you call it? Curatorial, custodial?
Like, well, yeah, there's an entity that does the curation for restaurants.
Yeah,
And
for
they
sure.
hold the insurance
And
for
they
the
hold
artists.
insurance, and so
And
you
they share the
certainly
artwork
should
inside the
figure out if that-
the restaurant, or sometimes it's a mix between the or whoever the business owner is
Okay,
hosting the artwork holds part of the insurance as well.
okay.
One thing I'm just thinking about that, and I'm thinking about when I've exhibited in places, usually they ask, a lot of times, they ask the artist to carry the insurance,
Yes.
and that covers it. So,
Is the insurance real expensive?
I've done it, and usually it's included in my, like, when I was a renter, it got included in my renters.
Yeah. Would it be included in your homeowner's insurance?
Yeah, it is now. I know that because that's something I remember asking my agent, so that when a piece of art goes out to an exhibit, that covers it. But I'm not sure of that. I don't know. I can ask. I will ask.
That'd be great.
Yeah. It's a question that I can.
Because this would be one of those things, Liam, that I think that if we got a program like this to help people, we could take them through those steps and say, hey, are you a renter? You probably have rental insurance. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, where we could think of that ahead of time and have an answer.
So covering the liability.
Yeah, the
Who
liability.
covers the liability?
Yeah.
For art, yeah, I'll do a little bit of research.
And the liability is just installation liability, because no one's going to go into the space.
Yeah. Except,
Yeah, if it
yeah, and I think the worry must be if there's a fire, something happens to the property,
Right.
then the property owner has to be able to.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that Peter's not here, and I'm sure Peter would mention this, right? That there is very complex California art laws, right? So making sure that the bases are covered on that as well, because if an artist has their art in a storefront or something like that, and the property owner says, "I'm kind of done with this," what outs do they have to kind of take down the art? And I'm not an expert on this in any way. Just I do know that those can be. artist rights for having art up in California are very protective, I guess. So it's just something to look at.
Are they protective of the artist or protective of the property owner?
No, the artist and the art, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and that's a good segue to one of the documents that I passed around. That's
Yeah.
exactly what that covers.
Okay, great.
One of
I
those
didn't even read it.
documents
Thank you,
has a lot of
Lisa.
information about
Thank you.
that very thing, yeah.
But just from the standpoint of if a property owner is up to it and wants to have art in there, that either them or the artist are clearly defined on the laws. Because if that store owner says, okay, yeah, I found, a sandwich place to go in here, and the artist is like, well, you said I could have this up for 18 months, it's only been 6 months, who wins that
I've been through that.
head bonking? Yeah.
I've been through that situation.
Ah,
Does anyone here, are you familiar with any template contracts for stuff like
There are
this?
template contracts, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I have one.
yeah.
Okay, that'd be great, and if we could just look at it.
Artist Equity also has, I think, a template. I think I have a book someplace in storage with some of those, but there definitely are.
I was going to say also, we should look into the insurance side, but if this is also collaboration with the Economic Development Committee, they likely have some insurance contacts or should be able to reach out to
Right.
business and property owners in Albany and ask about the insurance aspect from that side as well.
Oh, that's true. We don't have
Absolutely.
insurance house, yeah, it's true.
And as far as that goes, there's a couple ways of doing that. You can draft something and I can send it to the liaison. You may or may not hear back from individuals. We can do that way. Or again, you can, one can go to the meeting and just ask them too.
Yeah, right. Got it. So when we send things now, we're not going to send them to you, though. We're going to send them to Liam.
Yeah,
Yeah?
I gotta get used to that. Send them to Lean.
You can send them to Eva. No, send them all to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 11, BART paths and pillars, research opportunities to place art on and along the BART path or pillars.
Well, that's my Cornelius Creek Bridge. And the pillars, there's probably a pillar right over the Middle Creek that we could write Middle Creek on or something like that, But, yeah, who was going to talk to
This-
Bart about doing that?
So this was me. I've done 0. It's my bad. But
Don't worry about it.
previously, I was in touch with the woman who runs Bart's art program. So I guess if I want to try to think of concrete steps, I'd welcome everyone's help. Whoever wants to jump on board I'll reach back out to her,
Jennifer?
Jennifer Easton, to see if there's any updates, any worthwhile news. I will look for some other examples of art along transportation, rail networks, et cetera. And I will do a quick couple bullet point brainstorm that we can discuss. And then from there, we'll just, Temescal?
Speak up, I didn't hear you, sir.
I'm at Temescal, but,
Yeah, they have a really good, yeah.
Yeah.
Fruitvale's also looking really good right
I
now.
haven't been there in a long
Oh,
time.
you would not believe it.
There's a lot of artists
It's a
over there.
lot of art.
Yeah.
It's a lot of murals on the building. It's very cool.
Great, thank you, Brennan.
Is the utility box thing, this next item, is that, we found out that we couldn't do that?
I did a little bit of research into
And?
it.
And it's on our agenda too, so we can, it's number 6.3, so it's the very next one, so,
Should we segue?
Andy, let's skip that one and go to
Okay.
13, the public art installation. Choose a site that has been identified in the Public Arts Master Plan for public art installation.
Was this, when I saw this, I was like, was this, we were thinking about, we thought we were going to make Solano Avenue the site of another public art installation?
I think that was the idea of maybe the next sculpture loan.
Big sculpture loan.
2
So
year.
this is different.
I think that's what that was. I think that the idea was to walk Solano Avenue and identify maybe potential 3.
Sheriff,
that.
We did that.
We did that.
We
We
have that.
got sites.
But in doing that, we realized that when we went to these corners and we looked at some really great places for public art, we realized we need to talk to traffic and safety about height requirements and visibility requirements, because the great places for public art are kind of on those corners that bulge out, but then if you can't see around them to see ongoing traffic, it's a big deal. So,
And pedestrians.
and pedestrians, so we really
And
need to
ADA and,
we really
Yeah.
need to We have all these notes, we did it.
Do you want to make a presentation then to the Arts Committee? Take some pictures and bring?
Sure.
And people
do
can-
that. I can do
Yeah,
that.
we can do
We
that.
can totally do that.
We can do that.
Okay, so that'll be the next step is a presentation to the Arts Committee.
Can I just make a suggestion to think about, and I know you're thinking is three-dimensional stuff and stuff that, you know, standing or goes up and down.
Exactly.
But also, a lot of artists in different communities have been doing stuff on the ground, on the pavement,
Neat.
painting.
Very neat.
Yeah, and there was even an article not so long ago about experimenting with crosswalks. And so, and there's one area, I forget where it is, Oakland, I think, naturally.
Yeah.
Where there's a crosswalk that was done like a rainbow.
Right.
And it
Right, it's
stayed.
in the Castro.
It's in the Castro.
It's
Yeah.
in the
There's
Castro.
one
San
here,
Francisco.
too.
Oh,
One
fun.
Yeah.
East Bay,
Oh,
yeah.
very cool.
So, you know,
Let's,
there's also.
thank you.
Right.
Well, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's an excellent observation. And good idea.
Especially for those corners, for every reason we said, that's a good
Yeah.
idea to think. Or there's also media art too, that could be, you know, everyone who walks by, or you
Hi
guys
there.
are more,
Yeah,
Hi there.
that's,
oh,
Hi there.
yeah, but that's expensive. That's more
And-
expensive.
and
Sure.
breaks down.
Electricity,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's true.
yeah,
But there was some really interesting stuff in the news about the crosswalks, because at first there was a big fuss about it, because they said, oh, you know, it's a safety hazard.
Exactly.
But then they changed it, they did some research, and they changed the colors, and they changed the design such that now it's the opposite, and it enhances safety. So,
Oh, very cool. That's
I think it was in the
very
New York
cool.
Times or something, I saw that, yeah.
If you find it
I'll
again,
look for it. I'll
would
try to
you?
look for it.
That would be awesome.
Because that was very cool.
You know, I really didn't think of that. I think when Cheryl and I walked up and down Solana, we
Yeah.
really didn't
Yeah,
think
we
about.
were
Because
looking
you're
at
looking
that.
up here, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Right.
Here's another question. It's like, when we present, we saw some bleak corners. Do we say, I know.
not in Albany.
Yeah, in Albany. Do we-
Shocking as that
do we-
may
do
seem.
we as a group, I want everybody as a group, because when we present them, this is a bleak corner. Do we want to prioritize this? This is a rich corner. A lot of stuff is going on, and it would be great. You know, I mean, do we want to, you know, what's our goal? Is it to like make a bleak corner better, or to make an already hefty corner heftier?
What would be great too is if we can send out the intersections before the meeting too, so everyone has homework to go and walk those, and you can have photos on your presentation, but also that people can visualize what else is going on there too.
Okay, we totally can do that.
Yeah,
Certainly. It's super easy. Well, nothing's super easy, but we can do it.
great. And then if we want, we can go back to
Agenda.
6.3, and we can figure out next steps for the utility boxes if.
Oh, and Lisa or Jenny, if you're doing anything on the street art type of things, when I was an intern in the transportation department, I did a report on street art and how it would look putting murals on the ground and everything like that. And so it's comprehensive. It was presented to the Arts Committee
Do you
10 years ago or something like
Time
that.
ago. I
Yeah,
remember that
yeah.
was a long-
Yes, I can absolutely send it, but I can also dialogue with either of you if you want it as like help out for that. But yeah, I'll try to remember to send it.
A specialty of yours.
Not a specialty. 10 years is a long time ago in my
I was going to say that.
knowing of city,
10
yes.
years is a long time ago, yes. I remember that well.
Okay, Andy, you got something for us about the utility boxes?
Yeah, I did some research and connected with the city of San Leandro and some of the arts committee members there.
Speak up just a little bit.
Sure.
Thank you.
On how they were able to, they have a pretty robust utility box art program, I would say. And they were able to get that passed through because a lot of the boxes were city-owned, which makes it a lot easier, of course. So I think that's a issue that we have here is that, I mean, I don't even know what utility boxes are City of Albany's, and then, of course, you have to work with PG&E and AT&T and Comcast, so there's a lot of hunting down and then advocacy work that we have to do with each company. I know that it can get passed through. City of Berkeley's done it, and I've reached out to Comcast and AT&T to do a similar project in the city of Berkeley. And their biggest concern is the maintenance of the box itself. So it seems like the maintenance department is kind of where we want to put some focus into reaching out. And that paint on the boxes is a concern for them. So the vinyl wrapping is something that is actually more protecting of the utility box and would be more attractive to these companies. So if we had some sort of art that was then printed on a vinyl sticker and then put on the utility box, that would be the most attractive way to pursue these companies to try to get them in agreement for this program.
A quick question, and I don't know the answer. How many utility boxes do we have?
We have to do
Because
some research. on
I
that.
don't think we have that many, so I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Don't have any idea. So that's my big question.
Right, so I mean, it looks like if we wanted to pursue this, we'd have to go and do a walk and see maybe
Well,
which ones we
someone
want to put
must
some
have-
focus on.
The city must have some information on that.
I was going to say, we can ask Public Works and see if they have a count.
I mean, because walking around looking for utility boxes, you could miss them.
Right.
Well, we could do that, Andy. You and I could take a series of walks.
Yeah, and pick ones that maybe are, on a busy street,
Yeah,
or the most
busy-
attractive
busy-
ones, and
Busy street ones.
tackle that.
That'd be great.
And I had a question about maintenance. If you do the vinyl wraps, what maintenance is required? Graffiti, obviously. So removing graffiti, and I assume it's graffiti proof. But what other maintenance would the city, are they looking for the city to take responsibility for?
I don't know, not that the city would be taking responsibility, but they do their own maintenance on those boxes anyways. And so if we were to paint them, or if it was paint on there, that's something that is a burden to them.
Right.
So the vinyl wrapping, it would be less of a burden.
I see.
So it would make it more attractive for them to say, yeah, sure, we would like to do that.
Right.
But there's no program or anything set in place, like there's no department within these companies that works on that as of yet.
Yeah.
So it seems like the maintenance department is more of where we can put some focus.
And how did San Leandro
These
get
companies.
around because I don't,
They own their utility
They
boxes.
own the utility
Own them, I
boxes.
see.
Yeah, so they
So-
worked with those first. And then
how does one own a utility box?
Maybe they just leased it to the PG&E.
Because I know that Emeryville's the same way. They own their utility boxes, so they were like, yeah, we just put the vinyl wraps on it. It's like, I just
That's a good
wonder.
question.
I don't know how that comes about.
Yeah, Berkeley has a lot of them.
Berkeley has a lot of them. Yeah, they're wonderful. They are really.
So there are a couple of groups that specialize in this work. And I think what they've done is they did the legwork to reach out to these companies and did site-specific advocacy work with the companies to get that specific box done.
Oh, like
And-
those
and-
people outside of Berkeley High, when it's always about the people, the alumni of Berkeley High. Have you seen those?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they have, outside
Great.
of Berkeley High, you see the utility boxes, and all the public boxes are covered with the pictures of alumni from Berkeley High.
Am I on there? Am I on there? I'm a Berkeley High. I'll go look. Okay. I had no idea.
Yes, there's a couple of the companies, I mean, they're not companies, they're just art organizations that have gone out and found a way to work with the companies like AT&T and Comcast to get that specific box,
On a box by box basis.
box by box spaces, basically.
Interesting.
So,
Sponsor a box.
Yeah.
basically, sponsoring a box.
Interesting. Do we know if Berkeley owns their own boxes?
Don't know that. The one that I looked at, Berkeley did not own.
Okay.
And I called the owner of the box, and it was AT&T, and it was just a runaround. So
Yeah.
it's really kind of hard. That's the hard part, is to kind of hunt it down.
You have a life to live.
Really?
I'd be happy to spend some more time kind of doing some digging when I have the time. I think it's something that we should pursue. Other cities have been able to do it. Why can't we?
Absolutely.
It just
Let's
takes a
find
little bit of
Are
work.
you still into it, Andy?
I'm definitely still into it, yeah. And the call to art is probably not too difficult to do once we get some sort of approvals and get some site-specific boxes that we want.
And it may be one of those things too, that I like the sponsor a box too, that you can, the business right there could help out too if there was a way to fundraise.
Yeah, we could find out how much it costs. We could sponsor a box. Yeah, it would be doable. Who knows?
All right, 6-4.
Albany.
Cheryl.
Okay. Well, as you know, we had Aura Clay's quilts came down with no destruction to any of them at all. They were as pristine up there when they went up as when they came down, so I was genuinely relieved. The show was terrific. We got wonderful, wonderful feedback from all sorts of people. She was delighted. She sold 2 quilts and got 2 commissions. So she's very, very pleased. She said everybody, staff, everybody was just totally wonderful. She thinks we're all terrific. So there you go. The show that is up there now, Ava Turney Denish has had a lovely opening. The second half, her daughter came with a friend of hers, and they sang and they played, and it was just delightful. It was a really, really nice opening. She was very, very pleased. It was her first show ever, so she put everything up. There's too much work up there. Unfortunately, I didn't know that was going to happen because she never said how many pieces she was putting up. And so I do apologize for that, is what it is at the moment, but it will not happen again. So there you go. She has sold 1 piece, so she must be delighted about that. And when you go in there, you're kind of overwhelmed by how full the walls are, but if you take the time to look at the pictures, they're wonderful. The photos are really terrific.
Yeah.
She's got a terrific eye, and the subject matter is really lovely. So there you go.
This brings, I wonder if we can have a little discussion, because this brings to mind a show that I helped the woman, you were out of town, and she didn't put a lot of stuff. She left a couple of walls blank.
Oh,
but
yes.
She wasn't into it. She didn't want to put any more art up. And Lisa, you and I had talked, I said, what are the proportions? Are there, not that we have to follow them, but are there gallery rules for how much art can go on a wall so that a person like me, who's not very visual, I mean, I'm really kind of an outlier. I can't look at any of the photos and Ava's one of my neighbors. I feel terrible about it because it's too much. I can't even look at one because there's 17 more near it. So I asked you last time, you said there is kind of a magic formula.
There's a guideline.
I tried to find one, and I couldn't.
It's in graphic design, talking about basic design. And we sometimes refer to it as the rule of thirds, but basically you want at least enough white space, what's sometimes called negative space, so that so that your focus goes to whatever is the image that you want the viewer to rest their eye on. But that's what designers do. You
Right.
spend your time altering these proportions, but there is a guideline. But it's not like math, like, 2 plus 3.
Yeah.
That's what a designer develops
training,
over
is it?
25, 30 years.
Yeah.
Right.
'Cause-
There is. Less is more is generally. That's why when we'll go to galleries in San Francisco or, major metropolitan areas, you see that there's one picture and there's a lot of space between pictures so that your eye really spends time on that one picture, unless the artist has created a suite of things that
Sure.
they deliberately,
Sure.
yeah.
So I don't know how that informs us going forward, except that we've had a couple of experiences now. One with a little bit too little art and one with a little bit too much.
a little too, that was a problem that she came up with that I had no idea was going to happen because that was not what we had discussed.
Right,
And
exactly.
so,
And I'm not a hard ass, so I
exactly,
couldn't-
you're not a hard ass like
Make
I
her
am,
go
so.
and do more work.
She had work, she just didn't put it up.
Yeah, so let's just keep it in mind about the gallery that
Absolutely.
next time and you know, when we pick the art, we still have this whole cycle to go through. But let's keep that in mind when we pick art next. Sizes of the pieces, the dimensions of the pieces that are gonna go up.
Yes,
I have just if you can stay on top of that, Cheryl, that
I
would
will,
be amazing.
absolutely.
Great. All right, we're at 6-5, election of officers.
Drum
Oh,
roll,
gee,
please.
it's time to go. If not here, we could just say.
Well,
Does anybody want to be the chair?
Well, before we start, I just want to thank both of you. Jenny, you've done a wonderful job as chair. Brandon, vice chair when you're not here. Moving forward, anyone can be nominated. You can nominate yourself. Jenny and Brandon can also continue their roles. They can flip-flop roles. I just want to throw all of that out there so that everything's on the table. But we do start with vice chair, so nominations for that, and then we'll do the chair next. So
Does anybody want to be vice chair? Brandon, would you be vice chair again?
Everyone's okay with that, sure.
absolutely.
I
Go for it.
nominate Brandon.
Do we all vote?
so do a second,
Second.
and then all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right.
Congratulations.
Want to be the chair?
I nominate Jenny to be the chair. She did such a great job. She should have another shot at it.
Well, I could be the chair again if Brandon backs me up.
I was gonna say, maybe you should switch roles.
Yeah, so I could be vice chair. You want to switch?
I don't know, it's just a suggestion for variety.
Excuse me. I'm
Does
happy
it
to
matter?
try, as long as you help me with parliamentary procedure.
Yes, switch. You want to switch?
Sure.
Okay.
This is so formal. I love it.
nominate Brandon for being chair. I nominate me for being vice chair.
Okay, let's start with vice chair
I'm
then.
gonna
We'll go
nominate
back.
myself to be vice chair.
Okay.
Write this again.
I know, right. I didn't bring my white out. Does anyone second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to, Jenny nominated herself for vice chair. Yeah. And then for the chair, does anyone want to make a nomination?
Will you nominate yourself?
Nominate you.
Okay.
Okay, he was nominated.
Lisa did, okay.
Lisa nominated.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, that was easy.
So Peter got away with it.
Yeah. I'll tell you now that he said if really no one nominate, he was chair for
Years and
10 years, something like that. So he's definitely paid his dues, but he said that he would be strong-armed. And I said, well, I'll be brave. So thank you both.
Yes.
So I'll email Peter and tell him he's chair. Yeah,
He might not come back.
I know, it's true, it's true.
All right, so future agenda items. We know we want an update on the utility boxes. Will we need an update on the center? Do you want to do an update on the foyer next time?
Sure.
Okay. We're all going to review, all of us should review the work plan, our public art plan. Will there be another economic development committee that you're going to be able to go see?
I don't know if I'll go see, but I can provide an update on
Great.
whatever's happening.
And what would that item be?
So, language of the pamphlet /
The mural.
potential website, and we can also ask them for success stories or best cases on storefront art,
Sure.
right? Their communities might have resources, so get their input on that as well.
Okay. So in general, Economic Development Committee, Subcommittee update.
Yes.
Maybe we'll know about, more about sculpture loan. Maybe
And the poet laureate?
poet laureate's gonna come?
In April.
April. So
April, she'll
I
come.
don't have to do anything.
till April.
Well, in the haiku, I think we're also okay.
But Ava, also, just because I'll go all in, I'll try to do a draft recommendation or, suggestion about the ordinance.
Ordinance, spending,
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
that's a great idea.
Just not to present to city council, but for us to look at as a draft,
Good
a
idea.
really simple.
That's a good idea. Do you want to send it around to all of us
I'll
before the
try
meeting?
to, yeah.
Yeah, great idea. And Cheryl and I want to do a presentation. We will send you around something about sites on Solano Avenue for public art. And I'll try to get it out. Cheryl, I'll get it to you in the next week, and you can take a look at it. If you like it, you send it to Liam.
Okay,
Liam will send it to the rest of us, and you can either take a walk on Solano Avenue and take a look at those places, or you can wait and talk about them.
Staff will send the brochure to the committee as well as the Economic Development Committee for their feedback, and that will be shared with,
Didn't you send it
subcommittee.
to us this month?
yeah.
Maybe
Did I?
to the three of us, maybe not.
Oh.
to
Maybe just the three of you,
yeah,
okay.
because I didn't get it.
Okay. All right. Oh,
And-
yeah, because here's my mural brochure right in front of me.
Okay.
Just to backtrack really quickly, Jenny. So you and Cheryl are going to look at the locations along Solano.
We already did.
We already
Oh, excuse me, but you're going to send me the report on that you will discuss. But what I'm sending to the rest of the committee is the locations you looked at, so everyone can have an eye for it. Okay.
Exactly.
Do we want to send photos with that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we should go take photos.
We should go take photos.
Yeah, we should take photos. We should get together, hey, we should get together.
Okay, well, if we do it, we must.
We should whittle it down, because we had like 8 or 9.
We
should
did,
whittle
so
it
we
down.
should move it down. Okay.
Well, or you bring 8 or 9 and the committee
can
whittles
whittle it
it down.
Oh, it's
so
okay,
that
too.
it's,
Sure. I can't do it this week,
That's
but
okay,
next
we
week.
can do it next week.
I'm swamped this week.
Okay, so you got this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And anything else that comes up that you would like to put on the agenda, we've asked for 2 weeks, a week and a half, 2 weeks before the meeting to email Liam so he can get it on the agenda as well, and we can review with the new chair.
So, and February is short, so 2 weeks before the next meeting is like next week. Right?
No, we're the second week.
No, no,
We're the second
March.
week. in-
We're March 9th, though, so 2 weeks before that would
this is
be
a long February.
February 20th.
Yeah, in 2
Okay.
weeks, a week and a half,
2
2
weeks.
weeks.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
by March 1st, how about? February 29th.
Long February.
It is a long February.
Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. Can we move to adjourn? I move
This
that
is
we
your
adjourn.
last time.
I know,
Oh,
I
my
move that we
goodness.
adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everybody.